Hi, Bethan. I'm so excited to talk to you today, especially because you have started many cool nature journaling things, such as Journaling with Nature podcast, as well as the International Nature Journaling Week and a club, a nature journaling club in Brisbane. So, welcome to the show, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I think the first thing I want to hear from you is a description of your ideal nature journaling outing.
Hi, Marley. Thank you so much. This is exciting for me. Okay, ideal nature journaling outing. To be honest, I think it would be at the beach. And I've got this thing, and we don't get to the beach a lot here. The beach is about an hour, a good hour drive from here, and it's a bit of a mission. And so I don't get to nature journal at the beach as much as I would like. But I would love to take my sketchbook and do some rock pooling and investigate what's in the rock pool, and then sit on the beach and journal. Yeah, I think that's my ideal.
Nice. Well, that sounds like a really fun. I definitely want to go nature journaling at the beach in Australia sometime. That sounds awesome. Do you have any of your nature journals with you that you could share show some pages? Because people always love seeing other people's pages.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Nature journaling the fridge, which I just
Oh
found
yeah.
so fun. And this is my fridge journal page.
Cool.
I was just watching your video about layout, and I realized that I need to take some tips from you because I'm a little bit scrappy. Like I just go ahead and just start somewhere,
Yeah.
and then just fill up all the space, and then there's a white space there. I'll just fill it up with something. And yeah, a bit scrappy. Let me see.
Yeah, I just watched your ecosystem nature
Oh,
journaling
yeah,
video, and you were saying that your layout was kind of all over. Yeah, that one. And you were saying it was all over the place, but ecosystems are kind of like that. So, I mean, I think
um,
the layout can come naturally also. And I mean, I think there's an organic way of organizing it that can often look aesthetically pleasing. So, cool. Well, thanks for sharing some of those pages. I think one thing that I'm curious about now after seeing those is what your process is like. And I know that in your nature journaling ecosystems video, you did some sketching in the field, and then you also did some at home. Could you just kind of walk through what your process is usually like?
so I'm often journaling with a young son. So my boy is 3, and so sometimes it's kind of fractured. Like I'll sit down somewhere and we'll do something together, and then I have to get up and attend to him, or if it's like that, if you're journaling with a toddler, it is there's not a lot of focus. But if I'm by myself, I usually just sit down and I'll find something that will be the focus. I'll show you the one I did just the other day. Hang on. The lawn hadn't been cut for a while, and I saw this yellow flower that was that had sprung up on the lawn, and so I just started here, and I just did this and took a measurement, and then I had colored pencils everywhere, and I thought, oh, it could be good to do that. I think it's a bit like that, just a bit organic, and I just
Right.
will start somewhere, and then say if it's a flower, then I might do a close-up of the flower, and then go further and further into investigating whatever's pulling my attention. And then, like I said, if there's a big space, I'll fill it up with something. I do
Yeah.
like to maybe add a landscape or a skyscape, and yeah, it's a bit without any plan.
Okay.
And then I do, I sometimes, if I have time, come back home and then fill things out, especially like maybe make a title or things like that at home, things that you don't have time to do in the field, especially if there's a little one around.
Well, I think that brings up a really a useful topic for many people is nature journaling with a toddler, especially at that age where, I've seen some people try to introduce 3 or 4 year olds to nature journaling. It seems very early still at that stage, because there's just, yeah, a lot for them to practice and learn, even just holding the pencil. So could you describe, like you said that it's fractured, but it sounds like you do sometimes actually pull it off or do some attempts. So what does that look like for other people? I think sometimes hearing how other people do it at least lets people know, like, this is actually something that's possible. But what does that look like for you with your son?
Well, he has actually, you say it's young at 4, but he has been doing it with me since he was 1.
Wow,
Um,
wow.
and it looks different over the ages as the
Of course.
child grows. Yeah, and so when he was 1, I would just go out onto the lawn with him, and we would sit and paint outside, really,
Mhm.
and talk about
Right.
what I was seeing. So there is, with a really little one, they can't write, obviously, and they can't make a picture that represents or
Mhm.
looks like what they're seeing. But it's an oral thing, I think, when they're that
Absolutely.
little. And so I would just talk to him about specific birds, and I was looking over an old video, and it was of him out in painting outside, and he wasn't really speaking in full sentences, but said on the video, "Mummy, look up." And he said, "Bird." And I said, "Oh, what kind of bird is it?" And he said, "Butcher bird." Like, even at that age, he was observing and talking to me about what he was seeing. So then, as he got older, this is he has his own little journal, which is a handmade one,
Wow.
and a lot of the pages look like this.
Mhm.
Um, and so he's just putting down things that he wants, like more pages like this. But then sometimes I will do something and he will do something on the same page. So
Yeah.
this here, he's been drawing a stick, I
Mhm.
think, and he's added color to it. And I'll write down what he says. So he says kind of orange, kind of red. And this is something that I love. He is really observant with color, like, and
Mhm.
descriptive. So he won't say yellow. He'll say orange yellow, or
Wow, yeah.
lemon
That's
yellow, or
advanced.
something like that.
That's pretty advanced. A lot of
Yeah.
adults aren't really at that stage yet, so
And sometimes I'll do something on the same page and he'll
yeah.
like go over it or draw over it. And yeah, I was watching another video of him when we were in New Zealand on a holiday. He was drawing, and he was drawing a pine cone, and he was saying a spike here, a spike here, a spike here, a spike here. And
Uh-huh.
so there are things that little ones
Yeah.
can really do to get into it. So he's like feeling out, yeah, this thing that I'm observing is spiky, and putting it down in whatever way he can. So I think you can really take little ones somewhere with nature journaling.
Mhm.
Another thing that I do sometimes is um, I'll draw something, a quick outline, and he will fill it in, or he
Mhm.
will, yeah, he says stuff like bit of green here, bit of red here. Like, he's really observing on a leaf, like one leaf can have different colors, and yeah, you can go somewhere with little ones, I think.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think we're gonna have to make a video just about nature journaling with toddlers. But it seems like a couple points that I'm taking away are that the adult can do stuff on the page together with them. So either writing down what they're observing for them, or adding to their drawing, or kind of collaborating in that way. So that seems like one, like, really useful. And then also nature journaling verbally. So maybe
Mm,
instead of writing and drawing, to actually just in a spoken way have that exchange of curiosity, or do like I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. And then also maybe like just color swatches, or kind of focusing on colors, or something that doesn't require like the fine motor skills. Those are a couple of the
yeah,
things that I hear you saying. Cool.
yeah,
That,
and sorry,
yeah, no, go
he
ahead.
does this thing. He knows the drill almost. Like, when we sit down, he'll say to me, what do you notice? He says, what do you notice? So we talk a lot about it, and I mean, just naturally it just comes out. He picks up on what I say to him, and he'll say it back to me. What do you notice, man?
That is so cute. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That's really amazing. Okay, let's see if we can segue from nature journaling with toddlers to any like tips that you have for beginners, because a lot of people watching these videos are relatively new to nature journaling. What are some things that you've learned in your experience that are helpful?
One huge thing that I come up with beginners, because I do nature journaling workshops mostly with beginners as well, is that we all have these fears, again, and we go on about this all the time in this community, like, let go of the fears and da-da-da. And for beginners, it really is a big issue. And so the biggest thing that I tell people is it doesn't matter about what you create, and just to begin and to connect, we want to connect with nature, and that's the whole point. And so in whatever way there's different ways, but helping someone get over that hurdle and to actually even step up and say, I can do this, or I want to do this, because there's this story that I tell sometimes where I was at I was giving a nature journaling session to a professional development group of teachers, and I had set up this beautiful display of all like the nature journaling things that we were going to respond to, like feathers and leaves, and I had put all the paper and pens and paint everywhere, and to me, it looked like really exciting and inviting. And this woman, she walked past and she said, oh, how terrifying. And I thought, oh, gee, like, it's really deep, this feeling in people, like that they don't actually even want to engage with it. And it was part of a wider professional development thing about teaching outdoors. And so it was not like she hadn't signed up for nature journaling. And the idea that she would have to put pen to paper was terrifying. And I asked that group, like, how many people feel like drawing is an issue for them, or that they can't draw, and at least half of them said yes. And so this just comes up again and again, like just getting people to step into that feeling, or to somehow move past it. So I often do like quick sketches or blind. I love doing blind contour drawings with beginners, especially not even to do with nature, but to do it with each other's faces. It's just so fun, and they are so silly that it relaxes people. So yeah, I mean, the beginner thing is like just getting past that hurdle of like starting or wanting to start, and then also, I think beginners need to remember that what you see online or on nature journal forums or whatever is often people who have been doing it for years, and also their chosen pieces. And that's why I just absolutely love what you guys have developed with Fearless Friday, because I think that is just so cool to have a space or a day where everyone just says, this is behind the scenes, or this is what we haven't curated. And it's a really positive thing, I think, to help people get through.
Yeah. Wow. So those are some good tips around how to deal with fear, because it seems like that is really a big thing with people who are getting started. And where do you think that fear comes from?
I think there's a point in childhood when it comes, because I've done workshops with even older kids and they have it. And I think that there's a point, I mean, in young children, usually you can just watch them and they just churn out something. You'll say, draw a cow, draw a bus, they just do whatever. And then there's a point where and I reckon it's about 7 or 8, or maybe a bit later, where they start to say, oh, that what I can do is different from what is in my mind. And then a lot of people, most people, I would say, step back and stop drawing. And so when an adult comes to drawing, they feel like, oh, I draw like a 7-year-old. And that's because they stopped drawing when they're 7, And I think I think it's natural for us as humans to like compare ourselves to each other, or not want to be judged, or and there's a whole book written about art and fear, and it's a really big issue for people. And I think I've reflected on this about myself, because I have this thing as well, like it's like when you commit something to paper, it's like you're committing yourself in some way, or saying this is my best work. And so people have this feeling like they want to say, I know it's not perfect, and they point out the reasons why it's not perfect, so that the viewer can know that that it's not perfect. We have this thing of like self-judgment and what will people think, and
Right.
I think it's the normal human reaction, I guess, but it's something that we have to work on all the time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've never thought of it before, or heard it explained so clearly before, like the idea that it's sort of like a drawing or a nature journal page is sort of like a representation of ourselves that we put out, and so we're worried about how that will be interpreted. Wow, that's really a cool way to, or an interesting and useful way to think about it. So tell us a little bit about what's the creation story behind journaling with nature, and sort of the work that you've been doing there.
So I began like really seriously nature journaling in around 2001. I had done a bunch of nature journaling at university, like through formal courses and stuff like that. Well, like on field trips, we had to keep nature journals. Actually, I was going through old ones yesterday in preparation for this, and found some old sketchbooks from uni. And so then in 2001, I started doing it like for myself. And what did I say? 2011. And I started doing it because I was going through a health crisis. Like, I had some really serious health issues, and I couldn't at that time go and do a lot of stuff because I was really unwell. And so I was doing it as a practice for myself to just to calm and be settled, and to have something going on in my life that was fulfilling, that didn't take up a lot of energy, because I didn't have energy. And so then I did that for a number of years, and it was just so nourishing, fulfilling. And I had this feeling like I want this to go forward, to be something bigger. And so I started journaling with nature, and I didn't know how to make it into something. And I just started putting some things on Instagram, and then it just built from there, really. It just became more and more, getting some traction on Instagram, and then started doing nature journaling workshops. And then, it just has turned into my life and my business. And it feels really nourishing and amazing to be doing this. And I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, it's my work, but it doesn't feel like work. And sometimes I'll think like, is this okay to be enjoying work so much?
That's awesome. So what would you say is the core of, because now you started a podcast with Journaling with Nature as well, and you started Nature Journaling Week. What would you say is your core? Like, is the workshops the core, or what do you feel like is really the core part of your business and this creation of yours?
So my very first thing that I thought way back years ago was that I would do online workshops or online. And my first idea was, I'll do a nature journaling online course. And because it hadn't been done back then, I think it was 2014, I thought about this, and I just didn't have any idea how to go about it. I didn't have the technology or the sort of technical know-how how to do it. And I still haven't done that, because it's one of those, I don't know, you get on a roll with something, and I've gotten distracted with other things. And I would say the workshops in person have been my biggest
Mhm.
thing, and it's the thing that I get so fulfilled with, because
Yeah.
journaling with a group is just so positive, and I always come back home just feeling so buoyed and excited about life and everything
Mhm.
after an in-person workshop. And yet, you know, now that everything's a little bit different with the world, in-person workshops are challenging.
Mhm.
We're not in lockdown at the moment, but we have to have like group limits and all that stuff. So now well, the podcast is only a baby. It's just started a few weeks ago. But I feel like that will be my main channel for getting information to people.
Mhm.
And I feel like, in a way, I was thinking about like what's my role in this space, and I feel like my role is a connector, like a connector of people,
Mhm.
and that's what I hope to do with the podcast, to just offer up someone, you know, to say, hey, look at this person, you know, and connect journalists with people they might find interesting and resources that might help them. So I don't know. I'm feeling it out. My main business side is the in-person workshops, but I feel like the podcast is my new little baby that I'm nurturing at the moment.
Cool. Well, this all sounds super exciting, and I definitely am noticing, like, in your voice, that when you talk about the in-person workshops, you're most excited. And I find that interesting, because you admitted to me that you felt like you were an introvert, correct?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So that's interesting because you mentioned that, when you come home from these in-person workshops, that you feel buoyed and like you feel really great. And so that's interesting to hear coming from an introvert. So what do you think of, and I can relate to that in many ways. However, what do you think about that? Like, especially for someone who's an introvert. Normally, they say introverts, after being with a group of
Need
people,
a
they
rest.
need to go be by themselves to recharge. So,
Mm.
why do you think you were getting charged by this type of group interaction, or how is that different from other group interactions? Or yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, I guess like introvert, extrovert is a spectrum, and I wouldn't consider myself shy, and I absolutely love people, and I love being with people, and yet I don't like being in the spotlight. It's not my um, personality to say, "Hey, look at me." You know, I'd rather like talk, listen to someone than have someone listen to me, and
Mhm.
so that is the reason I call myself an introvert. And but there's something so powerful about journaling in a group and seeing people like heads down all in a group with pens and pencils moving together and being like engaged with nature. And I just find that so positive. And I'm thinking of one of the most recent workshops I gave. It was to a bunch of art therapists, and
Mhm.
they wanted to have a session about like nature journaling for art therapy, but for self care for art therapists. And so
Yeah.
um, we had this little walk. I planned to go down this path and follow this path and do some nature journaling along the way. And we got stuck like about 2 meters out of the door, and everyone was just, and I'm sure you have
Classic.
this experience too. Like you think, I'll go here, and then something like just takes you straight away, and you're just focused. And there was like, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 people all just standing there focused, and it was just such a cool thing. And just, I think, because I love nature so much and I get so much out of it, and seeing that transfer to other people, it's just such a positive experience.
Mhm.
And um, I do, I would say that certain things drain me as when I'm out in the world, but nature journaling is not one of them.
Cool. So it sounds like one of the main things that you get out of it is sharing something that you feel like has really brought a lot of quality to your life.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you started a nature journaling club as well. Is that true?
Yes,
Cool.
that's really new as well.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the Brisbane Nature Journal Club.
So we've had just one workshop. I had a workshop planned and it got rained out. That was the first one, which was a couple of months ago. And last month we had our first meetup,
Mhm.
and it was a small group, and um, we went to a local forest, and there was a picnic area. So I set up everything on the picnic area, and we just did what we do. And it wasn't a class as such. Well, I did give some direction and just said, let's maybe focus on this today. And then everyone did their own thing and chatted. And um, there still is a little bit of fear around like being together in a group.
Yeah.
So some people sort of sat away
Mhm.
together but apart. And there was a little baby. A mum had brought her baby as well, and he was toddling around in between everyone. And yeah, again, it was just one of those heart things where I just came away feeling so buoyed and excited
Mhm.
about the whole process of journaling together, and people, and that whole thing of seeing each other's pages is just so fun
Yeah.
as well, like learning from each other and looking at something in a new way. Like someone will be drawing the same thing as you, but they'll have a whole different perspective, and I think that's really fun and exciting.
Cool. Yeah, I'm definitely missing journaling in groups because, there's starting to be a lot of different nature journaling groups in the like Northern California area. So there's starting to be a lot of options to choose from for nature journaling outings. And then, starting this spring with COVID and everything, I don't think there's a ton of really great online resources now, but I don't think anyone is doing, as far as I know, there have not really been any in-person like field trips anymore. Even though I think there's ways to do that safely, no one has really like moved forward on that. So yeah, it's something that I definitely miss. Well, it's really cool to hear about kind of how you got started with journaling with nature and the your nature journal club and all of that. But I want to circle back a little bit. You mentioned that you worked with this group of art therapists, and you also mentioned how in 2011 or around 2011, nature journaling played such an important role in your own in a therapeutic role in your own health process. So, without like going into a whole bunch of details about your health situation, maybe you could explain, because I think that's something that is really important to talk about in our community, because some of us, take like our abilities for granted, that we can go on hikes and do stuff like that. Um, and I'm pretty able-bodied, so I think I often forget that some people are not as able-bodied. So could you mention just that aspect, the access and ability aspect, but also just like the therapeutic role that you found nature journaling had for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with you 100% that it's not something we talk about, and we should talk about it. And so for me, my health issues, it's an issue to do with the autonomic nervous system. So my system, it's complicated, but
Mhm.
a lot of it's to do with the nervous system. And so I was really like on high alert a lot.
Mhm.
And so connecting with nature has this effect of like slowing down, slowing down, slowing down, and calming the nervous system. And that really helped a lot for me because it's easy when you're really unwell, especially with something like that, to go on a downward spiral. And
Mhm.
nature journaling helped me start on an upward spiral. And it
Mm.
was because I was slowing down enough to rest the body
Mhm.
in this really profound way. Um, and I did that by just stepping outside. So I was really unwell to the point where I couldn't really go anywhere. It was really hard for me to even get to the letterbox and back up the steps to my house. And but I could like step outside, and I had this deck chair set up outside, and I would go out and I would just sit in the deck chair. And for a long time, I just sat and watched. And I remember so clearly, and I've talked a lot about this too, about how nature journaling can cement your memories. And so I've got these memories of this time that was really, really like quite dark in my life because I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. I was really sick. But at the same, in another way, it was one of the most beautiful times of my life because it was such a still place that I got to. I was using journaling like a meditation. And so I would go out and I would sit and I would watch, and I remember all the things that were happening in my backyard at that time. And I remember watching some nesting crows and, watching ants and these things that we don't often have time for, but when you're unwell, you have a lot of time to fill. And for me, it was really about slowing and stilling the mind and the nervous system, and that helped just so much. And another thing about access is that I couldn't go out. I couldn't go on hikes, certainly not. And I couldn't often even go to a local park, but I could go to my backyard, which was, you just start to realize like your backyard is a wonderland of amazing activity. And if you just sit out there and watch birds and watch ants and watch caterpillars, you realize just how rich it is. And so when people don't have access to national parks or wild spaces, a backyard is amazing. And if you don't have a backyard, because a lot of people don't, at one stage I was so unwell I couldn't go into the backyard. And I would just lie and watch the sky. And the sky is full of amazing things as well, cloud patterns and weather and wind and birds. And so that's another thing about access for people who aren't mobile. You can access the sky most often. So, for me, it really was just about stillness, finding stillness.
Wow, that's really great. I mean, I think that is an aspect of nature journaling that hasn't been, I mean, a lot of us intuitively understand that is happening, that type of healing and therapy is happening with nature journaling, but I think it hasn't really been addressed that much. And I know that there's people who do like art therapy and like garden therapy and nature therapy type things. And it seems like, a lot of us in the nature journaling community are getting those benefits, but we haven't really like talked about it or addressed it that much. So I really appreciate you sharing about your experience with that. And so I think what I want to hear more about now is nature journaling in Australia, because there were definitely people at the Wild Wonder Conference last year. It was in California, and I think I met like 3 or 4 people from Australia. And there's definitely some pretty active people from Australia on the Facebook group. And so I'm just curious what the scene is like over there. I even heard, maybe I shouldn't be spreading rumors, but there was, and this was like pre-COVID, but there was rumors like, oh, there's going to be a nature journaling conference in Australia, and all this stuff.
I've heard this rumor as well, and I hope it's true. I don't know, but I have heard the same rumor.
Okay, yeah. So tell us a little bit, especially maybe make it for people who don't live in Australia. What's going on over there? Like, what should everybody know? And what are maybe some misconceptions we have? Because I think for a lot of people who don't live in Australia, they think that everything is really close together, and like, oh, you live in Australia, you probably know so and so.
My friend who lives in Melbourne. Yeah, no. But so the first thing to know is Australia is massive, and I've never been to Western Australia, but it takes 5 hours on a plane, I think, to get there. It's a very, very big place. So in terms of the nature journaling community, I feel like there really is a bit of a buzz, or like people who are really keen. But there's only, according to Jack's map, 4 nature journal clubs in Australia. One is in Melbourne. One is in Brisbane here, the one I just started, one in Newcastle, and one in the Gold Coast hinterland, which is quite close to here. So I don't. There is actually this. Okay, there's this amazing nature journaler called Paula Peters who runs the club on
Yeah, yeah.
the Gold Coast hinterland. She's just churning out content. She's amazing. And actually, I'm going to plug her book if that's okay.
Yeah.
This is her latest book, and it's
Mm.
called "Take This Book for a Walk," and it's so cool. And it's got lots of pictures of Australian things in it, but mostly she has left a lot of space for you to do your own stuff. And so she's got like a little bit of scaffolding, like she'll say, maybe try this, but then leaving lots of space for you. So she's an amazing inspiration to the community in Australia. And she has started a Facebook group a long time ago, I think now. I'm hopeless with remembering.
I'll put in the link here.
Yeah. It's an Australian version of the Nature Journal Club. And it's fun to connect with people who are nature journaling similar things or having similar experiences. So I'd really like to build up Australia as a bit more of a hub for nature journaling. There's definitely, it's interesting looking at the analytics for International Nature Journaling Week, and the map is just like super hot in California and in the US in general. And then there's some hubs here and there, and I'd like to build up Australia to be a bit more of a hub.
Yeah, that's something I'm really curious about. And I recently spoke with Bella, and she's one of the moderators and main people behind the German language nature journal group on Facebook. And their group is slightly different because it's based around a language group instead of a country, because they actually have people in multiple countries. She's in Austria, for example, but united around that language. And I'm really curious about nature journaling growing in other language communities, but also in other nations. And so I'm wondering what you think. You're mentioning wanting to grow Australia as a hub. What do you think, what are the steps, or like, what do you think, how does that look to you? Like, what needs to happen for that to grow, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I've been asking myself the same question. So what I have done is to reach out to the people who are running those clubs, and I want to build some sort of or foster a network of people. And so just connecting people again, and posting. I'm hopeless on Facebook, but posting on the Nature Journal Australia group and encouraging each other, and even interviewing those people specifically on the podcast. I interviewed the lady who runs the Nature Journal Club in Melbourne. Her name's Amy Kirkbright, and I interviewed her on the podcast already, and I'm going to plan to interview Paula and the others. And yeah, just letting everybody know, and sharing and inspiring each other in the work that's going on. I'm super keen to hear about the German language group, because I feel like in general we need to start spreading out to different countries and different languages, especially. And I found that with International Nature Journaling Week, it's international, but it's all in English, and that didn't sit right with me. And so this coming year, like International Nature Journaling Week 2021, I plan to do some stuff in other languages. I don't speak other languages, but to be that connector, to bring in other people to translate certain parts of the content, and even maybe deliver workshops in different languages, to make a start on that. People from 94 countries accessed the website for that. I was really thrilled, but half of the people who looked at the website were in the US, and it went down from there, and just a few people in each of the other countries that access it. And I thought, we need to really make an effort to branch out into other languages and make things more accessible, and yeah, that's something that's going to be my main focus for next year.
Cool. Yeah, that's really exciting. I really appreciate that you're doing that. My experience besides interviewing Bella was I'm bilingual in Spanish and English, and my vocabulary is great, but it's also one thing that's important for people to understand is like vocabulary is contextual, and so like with nature journaling, we have so many neologisms and weird phrases, you know, like landscapitos and all these other things that are hard to translate from one English speaking region to another, much less to other languages. So I've been really curious since last year's nature journaling conference. I started talking with a few people who spoke other languages, and was just curious about like how translatable is nature journaling? What does a process look like? And how can maybe nature journaling grow a vocabulary in other languages instead of just being something like happens in a lot of tech fields where it's like you just take the word like Facebook and it just gets squished into other languages because it was invented in California or something. So that's something I've been curious about, and I did collaborate and lead a nature journaling class in Spanish in California.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, like where I live, I mean, California, I think I looked at a recent statistic that said that, you know, in primary school, 60% of the kids come from a family where Spanish is the primary language. So that to me is a sign that there needs to be nature journaling in Spanish as well. And when we taught this class here, where I live in California, and I did all this research, and I couldn't find any nature journaling class had ever been taught in Spanish in the U.S. before. To me, was surprising, and so I think trying to move forward on that is really important. So I really appreciate that, and it's cool to hear what you're saying about just nature journaling in Australia in general. And I know I want to go nature journaling in Australia someday. And
if the conference happens, I'm going to take you to some places near here because there's some amazing things to see.
Great. Yeah, that sounds awesome. So I think another thing around that that I'm curious about is going back to, you know, like, you know, you said you want to grow Australia as a hub, and then you're also mentioning the language factor and the whole international Nature Journaling Week. How do you see like the growth of nature journaling coming from, like, because like right now you said based on the analytics that you were looking at that, you know, California was like this huge hub of traffic. So how do you imagine nature journaling growing kind of in sort of like autonomous or self kind of like, to what degree is it centralized versus decentralized? Because I think, you know, like certain terms, even like, I don't know if sacrificial pancakes is going to be as meaningful in some places as in other places. Like, do you make pancakes in Australia, or like, have you seen any examples of things that are patently Australian nature journaling, like that you feel like, oh, this is something that came out of here, or like anything like that, or any feelings around like a special flavor or something?
That is such a cool question. I'm trying to think of Australian flavor. I don't know if there's any like nature journaling words that come from here, but maybe they'll grow in the future. But I really do feel strongly about people taking it and running with it in their own way. So when I did International Nature Journaling Week, I really didn't put myself in it. I really didn't like put myself on the website a lot, and I didn't want it to be I wanted it to be something that people could take in the future and say, hey, it's International Nature Journaling Week, let's run blah blah, and you know, take it and run with it in their own way, in their own country, in their own language. And so that's what I want it to become in the future. I want it to be that people can say, this is the week, and we'll be putting ideas and prompts and workshops and whatnot on the web. And also I love for people to just take the week as an inspiration and then do whatever they want to do in their own country, in their own language. And I'm sure that will begin in Australia as well, in whatever way. And I can't wait to see what Aussie slang nature journaling words come out of. I just love words that are already there, like sacrificial pancakes is just so cool, and pencil miles and the whole biz. It's like really excellent. I love it.
Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. We might be slightly avant-garde in thinking about this right now, but I'm sure it will. I'm sure the regionalisms will come out with time. Well, that's great. I think it might be time for the lightning round. Are you ready for that?
Okay, I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a little timer here. Unfortunately, I don't have anything like big buzzers on the screen or whatever.
I love how it's got the little thing going that's getting me in the mood.
So try to just answer each question as fast as possible without like thinking too much. All right. Question number 1. If you could nature journal anywhere on Earth, where would you go?
Oh, do you know, I would do it underwater. I have this real fascination and I don't know how to do it, but I would love to nature journal like a coral reef or, okay, I'm going to say the Great Barrier Reef, but underwater.
Great answer. Okay, next question. If you could nature journal on a macro scale or a micro scale, like if you could see from the planetary view or like bird's eye view or a micro scale, which would you choose?
I would choose micro scale. I love microscopy in nature journaling, and I just think there's just a universe down there that we can investigate. And I'm really obsessed with tardigrades at the moment. I'd love to go like super small and like chat with a tardigrade.
Great. That's awesome. Okay. Would you rather nature journal plants or animals?
Plants.
Okay. If you had to be on a deserted island by yourself and you could only bring 5 nature journaling supplies, what would you take?
I only have 5 anyway. I would take a sketchbook, palette, black fine liner, water brush. Is that it?
Oh my gosh, you have an extra spot or something. Good job.
And chocolate.
Yeah, there we go. If you could nature journal with any historical figure, like maybe if you had to teach them nature journaling, who would you nature journal with?
John Lennon. He's an artist and he's amazing.
Okay, great. Awesome. If you could have a nature journaling superpower, what would it be?
Oh, I'm going to have like binocular eyes.
Okay.
So that I don't have to have binoculars. I'll just like.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. All right. Would you rather nature journal 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future?
Oh gosh, I'm a bit scared about the future. I'm going to go to the past.
Okay, I had a feeling you're going to say that. And then the last question for the lightning round, you might have answered this one already, but would you rather nature journal from a bird's view or from a fish's view?
Fish, yeah.
Wow. Okay, that is awesome. Lightning round complete. Good job. That was super fun. And the second to last question, I think, kind of segues nicely into something that it comes up sometimes in the nature journaling community, and I think we're positioned in a place to have some responsibility around this. But what do you think about the future of nature journaling, kind of climate change, the political situation, sustainability? I mean, I think especially in the US right now, people are thinking about this a lot. Where I live, we had completely yellow skies with it felt like a nuclear winter for like 5 days. People are wearing respirator masks just to go outside. And we're about to have this big election here. So like what role, if any, do you think nature journaling plays in terms of the environment and the political situation and the future of our planet?
this is huge, and I think about it a lot. And part of me wants to say this is the main reason to nature journal, is that nature journaling helps us fall in love with the planet. And when you're in love with something, you want to care for it. And so I think it's huge. And I don't know if you felt this, but I feel like nature journaling is exploding at the moment, in that just so many people are joining in, and the networks are growing. The Nature Journal Club on Facebook has exploded over the last little while. And I think that people are waking up to, like, we need nature. We need it for ourselves. We need to be careful with it. And I think nature journaling is one way of, yeah, like I say, falling in love with nature. It's a way of attending to the world. And when we love nature, we look after it. And I mean, individual behavior is a big part of the puzzle, and also, like, the system that we're in is another huge part of the puzzle. And
Right.
when we love nature, we do those individual things to care for nature, and we step more lightly on the planet, I feel. And then the more we go into it, and the more we have networks, I think, like, and I
Mm,
think maybe it's something that we need to talk about more, because on social networks we talk about the pages and the process and how we did and whatever, and maybe we need to talk more about
mm,
nature and the fragility of this world and the way things are, and sort of rev each other up to actually try and change the system that we live in. And a lot of things have to change. A lot of, like I said, the future is a bit scary in some ways, but I think it's up to us to take charge and to, like, demand change in the system that is damaging the world so
mm,
very deeply.
mm.
But I really feel passionately that falling in love with nature is a huge part of, like, what's going to help us make that change, what's going to motivate us to move forward and to make changes and to demand changes.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for that part. Yeah, I think that is something that we need to talk about more. But yeah, thanks for sharing your piece about that. And for people who want to see like more of what you're doing, or to find out about Nature Journaling Week, your Nature Journaling Club, and the Journaling with Nature podcast, where should people go?
So there's two websites that I manage. So my personal website is journalingwithnature.com, and on there you can find about the Nature Journal Club, as well as the podcast. All the episodes are going up there. And then the other one is naturejournalingweek.com, and all the resources and classes and everything that was available during Nature Journaling Week is still up there, so you can still access it. And that's where all the activity and stuff that's going to come along for next year is going to be again.
Yay, I can't wait for Nature Journaling Week 2021.
I've learned a lot of lessons from this year, and so it'll be more organized.
Cool.
Some people said, "Oh, we didn't notice that you weren't organized," but it was flying by the seat of my pants.
Well, thanks for all that you're doing for the nature journaling community, and thank you so much for being on the show. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you, Molly. It's been amazing.
All right, bye. I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I did. I'm in the Grand Canyon right now doing some nature journaling down there, so I wasn't able to be here for the premiere, but thanks for watching this video, and thanks to all my Patreon patrons for supporting my work and helping me make more interviews and more videos like this. If you can't wait all the way until next week for the next episode of the show, check out these two videos here. Bye.